Woo Forever, the life and legend of Pop Smoke. Before the money, before the chains, before Dior and diamonds and billboard hits, there was just a boy named Bashar Baraka Jackson, a boy from Canarsie, Brooklyn, with a deep voice and a dream far too big for the concrete blocks that raised him. Born on July 20th, 1999, Bashar grew up surrounded by the energy of the Caribbean, his father Panamanian, his mother Jamaican. It was a home filled with faith, discipline, and the belief that life could be more than what the streets had to offer. But the streets have a voice of their own. In Canarsie, you learned quickly how to navigate loyalty, pressure, and reputation. Respect was earned, and weakness was a currency no one could afford. As a child, Bashar didn't dream of microphones or stages. He dreamed of basketball courts. He was tall, athletic, quick. His footwork was clean, his handles smooth. He played on travel teams, studied tape, imagined going pro. But destiny had different plans. At 15, he was diagnosed with a heart murmur. The condition required surgery and ended his basketball dreams overnight. One moment, he was a rising star on the court. The next, he was grounded, frustrated, and searching for identity. It was during this forced pause that something began to shift. Music had always been around him, on the streets, in the cars, in his headphones. But now, it began to feel like more than background noise. It felt like purpose. In 2018, in a friend's home studio, Bashar picked up a mic for the first time. It wasn't planned. The producer had stepped out, and Bashar, on a whim, decided to freestyle. The moment he opened his mouth, the room changed. His voice wasn't just deep, it was thunder. It carried authority, darkness, gravity, a sound you couldn't ignore. It wasn't long before he gave himself a new name, Pop Smoke. Pop came from a nickname given by his Panamanian grandmother. Smoke was earned in the streets, a reference to the respect he carried. Together, it became a name that would echo across the world. In April 2019, Pop Smoke released his breakout track, Welcome to the Party. It wasn't just a song, it was a warning, a chant, a seismic shift. Over a haunting UK drill beat by 808 Mellow, Pop delivered raw, aggressive, confident bars. The track exploded in Brooklyn. It spread through New York like fire on dry grass. And from there, it went national. Nicki Minaj jumped on the remix. Meek Mill shouted him out. Travis Scott took him under his wing. Suddenly, a 19-year-old kid from Canarsie was being flown to LA, styled in Dior, and performing in front of thousands. But he never smiled too long. He knew the rules of fame were written in pencil, not ink. Welcome to the Party was just the beginning. His debut mixtape, Meet the Woo, dropped in July 2019. It was dark, aggressive, hypnotic. Songs like Dior and War defined a sound that was uniquely his. Drill beats mixed with swagger, melody, and the echo of the streets. He wasn't just making music, he was building a world. The Woo became more than a crew. It became a movement, a brand, a family. To Pop, Woo meant loyalty, unity, and energy. It was the sound of celebration and violence in one breath. He wore it like armor. Fans wore it like faith. But with light comes shadow. The NYPD began watching him closely. His name appeared on internal lists of problematic rappers. He was banned from performing at major festivals in New York under the guise of public safety concerns. Some said it was jealousy, others said it was fear, but Pop didn't care. He moved forward. He dropped Meet the Woo 2 in February 2020, just 7 months after his debut. This time, he brought reinforcements. Features from Quavo, a Boogie Wit Da Hoodie, Lil J. The project debuted at number 7 on the Billboard 200. He was on the verge of true global superstardom. He had already started working on his debut studio album. The beats were evolving, the sound was expanding. He was singing, experimenting, trying to bridge street energy with mainstream polish. He didn't want to be just the king of Brooklyn. He wanted the world, but the world isn't always ready for ambition. In February 2020, Pop Smoke flew to Los Angeles. He rented a home in the Hollywood Hills to record music, clear his head, and escape the mounting pressure back home. He documented his days on Instagram, new jewelry, poolside views, shopping bags. But one post, one frame, accidentally revealed the address of the rental house. In the early morning hours of February 19th, 4 masked intruders broke into the property. At 4:30 a.m., Bashar Baraka Jackson was shot and killed during a home invasion. He was just 20 years old. The news sent shockwaves around the world. The city of Brooklyn froze. Fans lit candles, played Dior on repeat, and painted murals in his name. His voice echoed through speakers like a ghost refusing silence. The music didn't stop. In July 2020, 5 months after his death, his debut album Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon was released, executive produced by 50 Cent. It was a masterwork, the perfect mix of drill, melody, ambition, and legacy. The album debuted at number 1. Songs like The Woo, Mood Swings, and For the Night became anthems. Pop Smoke was no longer just a rapper, he was a symbol, a myth. A reminder of what could have been. Even in death, he achieved what most artists spend decades chasing: global influence. His sound inspired a new generation of drill artists, not just in New York, but in London, Paris, Lagos, and Toronto. His fashion influence lingered. Dior sales spiked. His interviews were studied. His lyrics were quoted like scripture. But the question remained, what if he had lived? What if he had seen 21, 25, 30? The industry believes he would have gone far beyond drill. He had pop star charisma, movie star looks, the ambition of a mogul. He wasn't just creating hits, he was building an empire. In interviews, he often talked about his dreams, not just of fame, but of ownership. He wanted his own label. He wanted to invest. He wanted to give back to Canarsie. He wanted young black boys like himself to know they didn't have to die young to be remembered. But fate had already written the ending, and so we're left with echoes, with songs that hit harder because we know there won't be any more, with a story that feels incomplete, but also eternal. Pop Smoke wasn't just a rapper, he was a blueprint for how to turn pain into power. He was a mirror reflecting both the glamour and the danger of fame. He was joy and menace, grit and grace. Every time his voice drops on a track, the world remembers. This wasn't just music, it was prophecy. A Brooklyn kid with a heavy voice and a heavier presence who shot for the stars and, for a moment, became one when the woo fell silent, Pop Smoke's lasting echo. After Pop Smoke's death, the music didn't stop. In fact, it got louder. Within days of the news breaking, his streams surged by hundreds of millions. Dior re-entered the Billboard charts. Unfinished verses were polished. Unreleased tracks were hunted like treasure. Fans clung to his voice, not just because of what he had done, but because of what he still represented. He had only just begun. In an era where rappers often fade fast, Pop's posthumous rise was different. It wasn't hype, it was hunger. The world wanted more, not just of his music, but of his story, his presence, his energy. His team, with the guidance of 50 Cent, got to work completing his debut album. Shoot for the Stars, Aim for the Moon dropped in July 2020, 5 months after he was murdered. It was a bittersweet triumph. The kind of debut every artist dreams of, delivered from beyond the grave. The album debuted at number 1 on the Billboard 200, and it stayed there, single after single. The Woo, Mood Swings, For the Night, climbed the charts, spread on TikTok, blasted in cars, clubs, and headphones around the globe. The sound was unmistakable, half drill, half R&B, all Pop Smoke. He had evolved, and the world finally caught up. But as the music rose, so did the questions. Who had killed him? Why? In the days after his death, police traced security footage and phone records. The clues led them to a group of teenagers, 5 individuals, the youngest just 15 years old. According to investigators, the suspects had seen Pop's accidental Instagram post that revealed the address of his Hollywood rental house. They acted quickly, deciding to rob the home in the early hours of February 19th. What they expected to be a burglary turned deadly. Pop was shot in the chest, reportedly after refusing to comply with demands or give up his jewelry. It was chaos. It was senseless. The suspects were arrested and charged with murder and robbery. The youngest among them, just a high school freshman, was later accused of pulling the trigger. Court documents painted a chilling picture of ambition without guidance. Kids desperate for money, recognition, fearlessness that came from having nothing to lose. They didn't kill a man, they killed a movement, a dream, a generation's hope. The trial has dragged on, full of delays, complications, and grief. Pop's family continues to seek justice, not just in the courtroom, but in memory. They want the world to know that Bashar Jackson was more than the Woo. He was their son, their brother, their heart. While the legal process crawled forward, the cultural response moved fast. Pop Smoke's voice became a staple in modern hip-hop. His influence stretched across continents. In London, artists like Heady One and Central C paid homage. In France, in Nigeria, in Brazil, drill artists began citing him as a foundational sound. He wasn't just part of the wave, he was the wave. His use of UK beats helped bridge a new global sound. New York drill built on London skeletons with Brooklyn muscle. His cadence, his growl, his pocket, artists copied it, studied it, celebrated it. You could hear Pop Smoke even when he wasn't there. Fashion too felt his presence. His partnership with Dior wasn't official, but it was iconic. The brand embraced him, and fans followed. Dior saw a spike in cultural relevance it hadn't enjoyed in years. But more than designer clothes or magazine covers, Pop represented something far more important: power and authenticity. He didn't try to be anyone else. He didn't dress like a trend. He dressed like Pop. He talked like Brooklyn. He rapped like the city was a living, breathing character in his story, and that energy became a beacon. In Canarsie, murals began appearing across walls and buildings. Kids wrote "woo" on their notebooks. Barbershops hung his photo. Schools held memorials. For the first time in a long time, the neighborhood felt like it had a hero. Not a perfect one, not a safe one, but a real one. A boy who walked the same streets, faced the same pressure, and turned his voice into a weapon. In a place where most dreams die quietly, his had become immortal, and the industry noticed. After his first posthumous album, a second followed, Faith. Released in July 2021, it was met with mixed reactions. Some felt it lacked his essence, too many features, too much studio polish. Others were just happy to hear him again. Either way, the album kept his name alive, reminding people that Pop Smoke had left behind more than just one project. His vault, it turned out, was deep, but deeper still was the question: how do you preserve a legacy when the artist isn't here to shape it? It's a question his team continues to wrestle with. His estate, now managed with care and intention, has been careful about what gets released, what gets held back. Not every verse needs to be heard. Not every rough draft needs to be finished. Sometimes the silence is more respectful than the sound. But even without new material, Pop's voice hasn't faded. His songs still trend, his influence grows, and his memory has become more than music. Schools now run workshops using his story. Anti-violence campaigns cite him as a cautionary tale. Not because he failed, but because he succeeded and still got taken. Young rappers mention him in interviews, calling him an inspiration. Not just for the music, but for the way he made them believe it was possible. He proved that you didn't need to wait 5 years for a breakthrough, that you could come from nowhere, rap over a beat from the UK, post it online, and change your entire life. In 18 months, Pop Smoke built an empire, and in doing so, he gave thousands the courage to try. His mother, Audrey Jackson, turned her grief into action. She launched foundations, spoke at youth events, and became an advocate for safe environments for young Black artists. Through tears, she reminded the world that her son wasn't just a rapper. He was a young man with ambition, humor, kindness. She recalled how he would pray before meals, how he used to protect his little brother, how fame never changed the way he hugged his mom. Pop wasn't just woo, he was Bashar. And she wants the world to know both. As the years pass, the myth of Pop Smoke grows. He's joined the ranks of artists whose lives were cut short but whose impact lasts forever, like Tupac, Biggie, Nipsey Hussle, XXXTentacion. Pop belongs. Or to the tragic fraternity of young Black men who created brilliance before the world was ready to protect them. And while each of them came from different eras, genres, and stories, their legacies share one brutal truth. In a system that feeds off Black talent but doesn't safeguard Black lives, genius can become a target. But Pop Smoke's story isn't just tragedy. It's also a roadmap. His life is a lesson in urgency, how quickly things can change, how vital it is to move with intention. He didn't wait for cosigns. He made himself undeniable. He didn't study trends. He made his own. He wasn't perfect, but he was real, and that reality still echoes in every club where Dior drops, in every TikTok dance that remixes his voice, in every barbershop where his poster hangs. Pop is still there, laughing, growling, commanding, reminding everyone that the voice of a Brooklyn kid can shake the planet, that the smoke never really clears, that legends, even the young ones, leave flames behind. So what do we take from his life? Maybe it's a warning about the dangers of fame, the speed of violence, the fragility of the moment. Maybe it's an inspiration to speak loud, to live boldly, to shoot for the stars, even if the world keeps trying to drag you down. Maybe it's a challenge to build more, to protect our artists, to create systems that let Black talent thrive without dying first. Or maybe it's just a song, a deep voice, dark beat, echoing through the night. Baby, welcome to the party. The line still hits, still moves crowds, still brings strangers together in shared memory. It's more than music, it's a call, an anthem, a ritual, and with every replay, Pop Smoke rises again, not just as a rapper, not just as a story, but as a symbol of ambition, of possibility, of woo. Because in the end, Pop Smoke wasn't supposed to be here. The odds were against him from the start. Brooklyn is full of boys with voices, but only one became a movement. Only one made the world stop and listen. Only one turned pain into poetry with a growl that shook the floor. And though his body is gone, the sound remains. His name remains. Woo forever.